let me just give you a very quick reminder of radiation. So what is radiation? It's energy in the form of moving particles or waves emitted by an atom or another body as it changes from one energy state to another. That's the official definition. And you can have two sort of main types of radiation, which are ionizing or non-ionizing. Now, ionizing radiation is the stuff that does us damage. And there's three sort of types which you're probably familiar with, called alpha, beta, and gamma radiation. Just to remind you of alpha radiation won't go through your hand, beta radiation will go through a piece of aluminium, and gamma radiation is penetrating and won't go through a big piece of lead. So there you go, you've been reminded of what radiation is. So can you put your hand up for me if you think that radiation is scary? I'm going to put my hand up. If it's a thing to be afraid of. Less people than I thought. Okay.
Radiation. We are all scared of radiation. All of us, really. I mean, and we are all exposed to radiation, but nevertheless, we are all scared of radiation. Now, if you are scared of radiation on Earth, be prepared. You will be much more scared if you go in space flight. To the point that the question of this talk will be, is this a showstopper? Should we just forget about space because radiation is too high? The problem is not only the quantity, that you get more radiation. The problem is the quality. It's different radiation. We know radiation on Earth. We know X-rays, gamma rays, beta rays, we all know. But radiation in space is heavy ions, iron, these exotic particles, very heavy, very densely ionizing. We say this is a beautiful image that you see. What you see here, this one is a human cell. This is a human nucleus, so you know it's 10 microns approximately. And these two lines that you see here are two iron ions that you don't find in space. I'm sorry, that you find in space, but not on Earth, except in Darmstadt, the GSI, where we have it, going through the cells and making damage to the DNA. What do we know about this radiation? We really don't know much, because we don't know it on Earth. We only know it in space, or if you are exposed to the GSI.
Heat from the beam is an interesting one because it's actually incredibly difficult to stop the beam. And if you put your head in the way of the Large Hadron Collider beam, unlike what some of these people in the video thought, it would actually go straight through and out the other side. In fact, it has enough energy to go through your head and out the other side about 100,000 times before it loses all its energy. And that's actually one of the issues they had to deal with when designing the machine, is how do you stop the beam? You know, and we want to stop it occasionally, intentionally, because we're done with that particular fill of the beam, or because we think there might be a problem somewhere, so we want to get the beam out and dump it. So they had to put a lot of effort into designing what they call the beam dump, which is a massive long block of very dense graphite, which absorbs the energy. But even then, there's so much energy that they can't just dump it directly on it, or the thermal shock would make the thing explode. So they actually have to paint the beam in sort of a swirly pattern in order to spread out the load of the heat from the beam on this huge graphite block. If you just put this beam onto a massive block of copper, you could actually melt 600 tons of copper from solid to liquid just using the Large Hadron Collider beam. So it's interesting, even though it seems like a stupid question to say what would happen if you stuck your head in it, it does actually present some interesting real problems in engineering in actually designing these machines.
Ourselves from radiation. Well, you know, this is, I want to point out, as my previous speaker, that this is not a girl playing with the sand. This is a serious scientific experiment. It's a serious scientific experiment where this researcher at GSI is trying to measure the shielding properties of the Mars soil. Here it is for you. This is Mars soil. Not really. it's a simulation of the Mars soil, but really looks like the Mars soil. I mean, it's identical. It's pretty much the same. So, I mean, if you want some, I can sell it for a reasonable price. We even have moon. This is moon soil, which is gray. And actually, this is also showed by the previous speakers. You have these nice caves. So you can go on Mars, you can go in the caves, and you will be protected with this very thick shield. You can even do, this is Mars concrete. These are bricks that you can do with the Mars soil. It's better to use the caves than to dig, because, you know, if you go to a construction site here in Germany, you see that when people are digging, they make a lot of dust. You can imagine on the moon, where the gravity is 1/6, you really make a lot of dust. So you don't want to do that. But this can be effective if you are on the planet. What about during the transit, when the dose is even higher? You cannot bring heavy shields because, you know, the weight is what is really expensive in a spacecraft. So you don't want to bring heavy shield. Shielding is a very nice solution on Earth when you go to the dentist. Again, not my dentist, but your dentist. Don't go to my dentist because he uses a lot of X-rays and no shielding. Now, your dentist use not so much X-rays and plenty of shielding, but that's heavy, so it's a big problem. You will not solve the problem using passive shielding.
In the 100 years since we discovered radioactivity, we've learned a lot about the negative effects of radiation on the human body. Thankfully, here on Earth, we're pretty well protected. We have an atmosphere 300 miles high, which has a thickness density equivalent of 7 feet of lead.
You can think of active shielding. You can think of electrostatic shielding. I mean, some kind of electrostatic spheres that protect the astronauts. Or even better, you can think to this thing. This is shielding. This is something I think all of you know. This is a beautiful aurora borealis. What is this? This is the shielding of the Earth, the magnetic shielding of the Earth. The solar wind, with these protons and heavy ions, is coming to the Earth, is trying to enter in the Earth, but the magnetic field of the Earth is deflecting these particles. They go to the poles, and then they hit the atmosphere, and you see these beautiful colors. Beautiful. There are many people going there only to see them. You see that the green colors is the oxygen. Sometimes it's more on the red than is nitrogen. So that's how Earth is protecting life, using a magnetic field. So we could think about using the same system. It's not so easy, but it can be done. So what do we do really at GSI? We simulate the cosmic rays. This is this is our accelerator at GSI. We also have many people, 1,000 people working there. We also have lawyers too, not scientists, but also lawyers, mostly scientists. And we can simulate the particle. We need these huge accelerators because the cosmic rays are so energetic. They are so fast. So you need a very large and expensive accelerator to simulate space radiation.
Now, the radiation dose that the LHC beam could give you could kill you 76,000 times over. But the radiation dose you'd receive from a beam of, say, 200 MeV, a relatively modest proton beam, is much lower and can actually be used to treat cancer.
But there is a nice part of the story. I told you these particles are so effective. You do remember the little astronauts killed by the cosmic radiation, which is bad if you are in space. But if you are a patient, and if you can take these same particles and you can shoot them in the tumor, not whole body, but only in the tumor, then you can cure cancer. Well, this is done. And not very far away from here. It was done in Darmstadt for many years. Now it's done in Heidelberg. This is a picture of a treatment room in Heidelberg. But they are treating the patients using heavy ions, using carbon ions in this case. So I think this is really fascinating, is the possibility that space research and medicine help each other, you know, that the same radiation which is a problem in space can be a cure for cancer on Earth. So at the end, shall we go to Mars or not? Well, I think I was supposed to give ideas here. It looks like, I mean, radiation is a problem. This is clear. Shielding, passive shielding can be a solution on the planet, but not really on transit. Maybe the best solution, the best idea is to use a magnetic shielding, is to build magnetic fields for the spacecrafts that can do what is done on Earth. So it's not really a new idea. It's the same idea that God had a few billions of years ago when he said, okay, I want to make life, but I created radiation already. What can I do now? Okay, maybe I can make a magnetic field, you know? And you see, it's very effective in protecting the Earth and our life from space radiation. Thank you very much.
Yes. What was the plan, did you say?
The point.
The point of the
What
Large Hadron
was the
Collider.
point? He speaks in past tense as though we're done with it.
Well,
We
then what
just
is?
turned on the switch, the Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland. The point of the Large Hadron Collider was to embarrass America, to make us feel bad that we didn't have our collider built back in the 1980s when it was first funded. That's the whole point of the Large Hadron Collider. It's Europe saying, ha, gotcha this time. Now, apart from that ego bit, it's to probe nature on levels of energy never before seen. And right now, it's practically impossible to discover a new law of physics on your tabletop. We've been there. We've done that. And almost the entire history of physics is go to the edges of your points of exploration and then take a step beyond that. You're bound to discover something new. It's like climbing the next mountain, crossing the next valley. So, the Large Hadron Collider, the energy inside that particle accelerator will exceed the energy of all accelerators that have ever been built before, probing nature as never previously imagined.
San Jose, California, and I was wondering, maybe to both of you, what are some of the challenges that you see coming up in spacesuit design, especially as we think about going to Mars and maybe beyond to some of the moons, like increasingly hostile environments in space, and dealing with problems of ionizing radiation to astronauts over long periods of time. So I'm just interested in what your thoughts are in that direction.
It's a good preview question for, I think, what we're going to hear about, but go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. You can go first, I'll go second.
Well, as I had said, the first thing you do is you have to look at the mission. The jump from Gemini to Apollo is very important because the astronauts had to walk. Now with the ISS, the astronauts don't have to walk, so the lower half of the suits are not very mobile. So everything goes to mission. As far as radiation is concerned, that is a concern, and I think David is probably better trained to answer that.
Low weight suits, very low mass, very mobile. That's where the future, we think, of design and development. Radiation is maybe the #1 showstopper to keep our astronauts healthy and well. Don't think it makes sense to incorporate that into the suit design. It makes sense to incorporate that into your shelters and things like that, because you need a very high dense, high massive protection of the radiation. So I kind of decouple the two, thinking about the suit and life support system design and then your habitat and rover design, which are better equipped to do the radiation protection.
Good morning, and welcome to NASA Mars Day. Humans have always had a deep fascination for the red planet, and today we are building the Space Launch System, the most powerful rocket ever built, the Orion crew capsule. And through our Mars robotics missions, through lessons we've learned at the International Space Station, and through new groundbreaking technologies, we are closer than ever before to sending humans to Mars.
My name is Kelly Smith, and I work on navigation and guidance for Orion. Orion is NASA's next-generation spacecraft. Built with versatility in mind, it can take astronauts deeper into space than we've ever gone before, to an asteroid or even onto Mars. For these missions, Orion has to be one tough spacecraft, withstanding high speeds, searing temperatures, and extreme radiation. Before we can send astronauts into space on Orion, we have to test all of its systems. And there's only one way to know if we got it right: fly it in space. For Orion's first flight, no astronauts will be aboard. The spacecraft is loaded with sensors to record and measure all aspects of the flight in every detail. It all begins with launch aboard a Delta IV Heavy rocket. As it punches into Earth orbit, Orion will jettison its launch abort system. The abort system is a safety feature designed to pull Orion and its crew out of danger if there were a problem with the rocket during ascent. Orion's journey is just beginning. As the spacecraft and the upper stage begin their first lap around Earth, Mission Control in Houston is monitoring the progress of the flight. Orion's over 100 miles up and going about 17,000 miles per hour. Just as it passes over the Indian Ocean, we lose communication. This is expected. The communications link we have through satellites to Orion is momentarily lost, but Orion continues to receive and process data. Its computers can handle 480 million instructions per second. Imagine you are traveling with Orion as the flight test continues. One orbit completed. Time to go. The upper stage of the rocket fires again. Like the setup for a roller coaster ride, this is the big climb we've been waiting for. We are headed 3,600 miles above Earth, 15 times higher from the planet than the International Space Station. As we get further away from Earth, we'll pass through the Van Allen belts, an area of dangerous radiation. Radiation like this could harm the guidance systems, onboard computers, or other electronics on Orion. Naturally, we have to pass through this danger zone twice, once up and once back. But Orion has protection. Shielding will be put to the test as the vehicle cuts through the waves of radiation. Sensors aboard will record radiation levels for scientists to study. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space. For this flight, it's time to head home.
I want to talk about space exploration challenges that are still in front of us as we go forward. We've solved a lot of them in the past, but there's a couple of key ones that we still haven't solved, and I would say we need your help to do that. So that's what I'm here today to talk about. The other big challenge we have is just radiation in space. There's a field of radiation out there, high energy ions, electrons, all kinds of charged particles, and they're just everywhere. And this is showing the magnetic protection that the Earth provides to these particles. So we're sitting here on Earth, and we have this protection system around us, and the particles can't get to us because, and then we're effectively shielded from that. And right now, there's nothing on the books that says, here, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to get there. So the other thing, the radiation challenge is such a big challenge for us, we don't know what to do with it. We have a website that's been set up, and it's the NASA Exploration Design Challenge for Radiation. And they're asking all of you at this website, they're asking all of you to participate. And it goes through K through 12. K through 12, college students, whoever's out there, NASA, and we're all looking for ideas for how we solve that problem for deep space exploration. How do we protect ourselves? How do we shield ourselves? What are the mechanisms? What are the new ideas that could come our way where we...
For the first time since the Apollo moon landings, NASA is preparing to send astronauts beyond Earth orbit. And this time, the mission is the most ambitious we have ever undertaken. The journey to Mars. Carrying out this journey will require bringing together the best of our efforts, from robotic probes, to technology development, to astronauts in orbit, to robust new space vehicles. The journey is already underway, right here, right now. Astronauts aboard the International Space Station are learning more about living and working in space for long periods of time. Vital information for the challenging trip to Mars. Transportation to and from this station will be provided by our American commercial cargo and crew partners. Next, using the Orion crew vehicle and the powerful Space Launch System rocket, NASA will move into the proving ground of space, around and beyond the moon. Here, we will carry out increasingly ambitious missions to test out new systems and capabilities needed to reach Mars, like deep space habitats and advanced propulsion systems. Even as we speak, our robotic scouts are already exploring the Red Planet, preparing the way for astronauts to join them. Once we have matured our capabilities in the proving ground, we'll be ready for Earth independence, reaching our planetary neighbor, not just as temporary visitors, but as pioneers, expanding human presence into our solar system.
We've got a great panel for you. What we're going to do is walk you through what all the aspects of the different organizations at NASA are doing to make the journey to Mars happen. You're going to hear about what's going on with the International Space Station. We've had 15 years or more of humans continuously in orbit. We're bringing on a commercial crew market, and you're going to hear about companies like SpaceX and Orbital ATK and Boeing and Sierra Nevada that we're actually opening up markets in low Earth orbit. Then you're going to hear from the Human Exploration Operations folks that are going to tell you a little bit about what's going on, not just with SLS and Orion, but the ground systems. You're going to hear from the crew and what they're doing to get ready. You're going to hear from the Science Mission Directorate. We've been sending probes to Mars for 40 years, but now they're starting to scout out our landing sites for the future. And then you're going to hear a little bit about the technologies it's going to take to get us to Mars. And so this room you're in here is set up to showcase all of those pieces so you understand how all this weaves together. You'll see there's big banners over here, the Journey to Mars banners. You got Earth Reliant over here to the left. That's going to be low Earth orbit, International Space Station, the things that Space Station is going to do to help enable us to go out deeper into space. You've got the proving ground. When you get out into cislunar space, you start talking about deep space again. Once we've mastered low Earth orbit, it's time to go out into the proving ground, and we're going to have to do things like learn how to live autonomously, take our closed-loop life support systems to a new level with respect to reliability and efficiency. And then you get out here into Earth independent, you're going to have to learn to do really hard things. When you go to the space station today, you're hours away from Earth if something goes wrong. When you get out into the proving ground, you may be days from Earth. But when you go to Mars, you're going to be months from home, and you've got to learn how to live independent of Earth. That's really letting go of the net. and flying without a net. And so you've got to learn, you're going to hear about technologies like additive manufacturing. We might not have that part we need on orbit. We might have to make it. You're going to learn about ISRU, in situ resource utilization. We've got to use what we have where we are. And so it's going to be a great day. These panelists are really going to lay all this out for you. I'm really excited for you and hope you enjoy your time today. And I think we're going to show you a little video, and then we're going to let the panelists come up and we'll get going. Thanks.
A bit, and entrepreneurs have the opportunity to do it. Do you think there's some way to recapture the U.S. government's interest in this?
Well, I think if you think back to the kind of the heyday of the 1960s and the Apollo program and all of that excitement, my gut instinct on this is that we as a civilization, we as humanity, pulled that moon landing way forward, out of sequence from where it actually should have been. It was a gigantic effort with what is, in many ways, it should have been impossible. And they pulled it off with, barely any computational power. They were still using slide rules. They couldn't numerically model in computers a lot of these important processes like combustion inside a rocket engine, which is still hard today, but we can do it a little bit. They didn't have computational fluid dynamics to really, everything had to be done in a wind tunnel. Nothing could be done on a computer. So I think the reason we've sort of taken a hiatus, maybe in part at least, is because we pulled that forward to a time when it should have been impossible. And then once it was done, we kind of had to wait and let technology catch up. The reason that Blue Origin and SpaceX and Virgin Galactic and all these companies today, any of these private companies, the only reason that we can do this kind of endeavor at all is because we're standing on the shoulders of NASA, who invented all of this technology, we're still using all the things that they invented back in the 60s. We have refined versions of it. But even the computer codes that we use to validate our designs have been, honed and fine-tuned by NASA over decades. So this is, I think we're finally entering, I believe that we are entering a new golden age of space and space exploration, and that the time has come for that to happen because we as a species have up-leveled ourselves in terms of technology. We're ready to do it now. It's amazing that we did it in 1969.
So,
it's crazy.
I love this crowd. Welcome back, everybody. Now we're going to go into some of the specifics. Todd kind of gave an overview of, we are going to Mars and some of the things we need to do to get there, big picture stuff. And now we're going to delve in the weeds a little bit about the things we're doing to actually get the red planet. I know there's been a lot of talk. My entire life I've heard that humans are going to go to Mars. And working at NASA, even when I started here at NASA 10 years ago, it seemed like a distant dream. But now we're actually doing real stuff, real hardware, real technology. It's all happening today, and it's a reality. And I think that people don't really understand all the things NASA is doing to make this happen. So we have a great panel here today that's going to talk about it.
I'm just thrilled to be here to talk to you all about what we're doing in exploration systems development. We're also doing other things within the Human Exploration and Operations Mission Directorate. We're basically responsible for all human exploration, including the space station, which Todd said we've been up on orbit for 15, 16 years with human presence. We're going to use the space station as our basic way to demonstrate and test out some of our systems that we're going to use, things like environmental control, life support systems. We're already testing out the carbon dioxide removal system, the amine swing bed on orbit, and we'll use that on Orion for Exploration Mission 2. So we're going to use that as our test. That's basically what we call a phase 0, or our Earth-dependent phase of what we're doing, and then we'll move out into the proving ground. SLS, the Space Launch System, Orion spacecraft, and the ground systems that support it are our fundamental capabilities that we will need to get to Mars. And we're developing those today. What you'll see today is some of that flight hardware. On your tours, you'll see the structural test article for the Orion spacecraft. We've already delivered the pressure vessel for Exploration Mission 1 in 2018. But you'll see the next one in flow for that. We're going to use those to demonstrate our capabilities within the proving ground around the lunar orbit around the moon. Going to do that in 2 basic phases. We're going to do the first phase, basically Exploration Mission 2 through 5 or 6. We'll get through to the asteroid crew retrieval mission. But we're going to demonstrate our capabilities, things like rendezvous and docking. We don't have GPS out there. We don't have a lot of the other things that we typically use in low Earth orbit. So we're going to have to go out there and test. I kind of liken the proving ground as our practice field to kind of get ready for the big game. So that's kind of what we're going to do there. Back in low Earth orbit, we've got the commercial crew, commercial cargo folks. Cargo folks have been delivering cargo for the last 3 years. Orbital ATK is getting ready to launch their 5th or 6th mission in September out of Wallops, and we're excited about that. But we're using our commercial capabilities, and NASA's trying to develop economic development in low Earth orbit. Ultimately, our desire is to hand the space station over to either a commercial entity or some other commercial capability so that research can continue in low Earth orbit. And we figure that'll be around the mid-20s. So. Other than that, we're really excited to be here today. Get around, take a look at and talk to some of our folks. We have folks here from the ground systems, from Orion, commercial crew, commercial cargo. Get around and talk to them, and hopefully you can learn a lot. Thank you.
how are the commercial folks helping us with this Mars endeavor? How are those two things related?
Well, it's kind of a back and forth. You know, a lot of our Orion test results we hand over to the commercial crew folks and commercial cargo folks. But, you know, things like you might have heard of, you know, SpaceX's announcement about Red Dragon, about going to Mars here and landing a Dragon on the surface. One of the things about going to Mars that's really hard is getting through the Martian atmosphere. To date, we've been using parachutes and aerobraking, but what SpaceX is intending to do is do a propulsive entry, basically use rockets to slow it down and then safely touch it to the surface. That's a capability we haven't proven, and our teaming with SpaceX on Red Dragon will get us that data, that information that they're going to achieve or collect as they do that. So there's a good back and forth. We're going to need everybody. We're going to need our industrial partners, our commercial partners, our international partners. This is going to be a human endeavor to get to the surface of Mars and then stay there and colonize it.
One last question. We tested Orion, launched it on an Atlas V, and got data back from that. You talked about the mission in 2018 a little bit. Could you just go into a little bit more what that is and what people are going to see and what to expect?
Yeah, 2018 is our exploration mission 1, and our intent is our first, well, actually our second flight test. I think if I had to do it all over again, I'd name it EFT2. But it's our first flight test of the Space Launch System. We're going to take an uncrewed Orion out around the moon. Right now we're planning a distant retrograde orbit, and we'll go into that orbit and drop out of that and come back to Earth and re-enter. You know, we're looking at, from the SLS standpoint, testing out the first stage and second stage or core stage, making sure that works. And then once we get up into the low Earth orbit, we'll use the interim cryopropulsion system, which we will only use once, and we will only use it in the uncrewed version right now, to send Orion off to the moon. Within the interim propulsion system, cryopropulsion system, we're going to have 13 CubeSats, up to 6U in size, and it's the first time we've had the capability to launch CubeSats outside of low Earth orbit. So we're really excited about that, and our CubeSat folks are excited. One of which will actually go land on the surface of the moon. It's going to be extremely challenging, and frankly, there are technologies that we haven't actually invented yet that we're going to need to get there.
Hello, my name is Jason Schoenberg from Atlanta, Georgia. There's a question from Mr. Vickers. I got a couple of guys in our fab shop in Indiana that are following along and wanted to know, is there a manufacturing technology that's truly unique to the SLS rocket? Or to expand on your introduction from this earlier this morning, is nothing in NASA really developed in a vacuum, no pun intended?
So, I'm not sure I know if anything is truly unique. We did bring the friction stir weld technology over from Europe, and it's not uncommon that we adopt technologies that are in an early stage of development and then mature those and use them. But you know, the way we use our vehicles is at the very ultimate of their capabilities in a very demanding environment. And so while other sectors may use the same technologies that we use, the aluminum alloys, the composites, even the high temperature materials, I would say they don't nearly use them in the demanding environments that we do. They don't use them to the ultimate of their capabilities. When we light our liquid rocket engine, and many of you are going to see that today, it goes from cryogenic temperatures on the hydrogen side, minus 423 degrees, to about 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit instantaneously. That's a harsh environment for a metal material.
All right, lift off and the clock is started.
We've gone for main engine start. We have main engine start.
We are getting confirmation from our affiliate KXAS. It is confirming that the Space Shuttle Columbia has exploded over Dallas, Texas airspace. Once again, KXAS is confirming to us that the Space Shuttle Columbia has exploded in Dallas, Texas.
Launch command issued for ignition.
Launch command has been issued. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Set flight speed. Engines at maximum thrust.
And liftoff. It's in 3 seconds into the flight. Everything's still going well. The Soyuz traveling at a speed of about 4,700 miles an hour.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the KGO TV portion of the event. Please stand by for a voice check from the History Channel.
Now, Ayla asks, after spending time living in space, do you think it actually will be possible for humans to inhabit outer space? And when do you think that's going to really begin?
Well, I think we're inhabiting outer space right now for 6-month durations anyway. And Scott Kelly, of course, stayed up here for just under a year. And we will inhabit, with the moon, I'm sure will be in the future. Of course, Mars is the ultimate target. But Earth is very unique in that Earth provides all of the things necessary to support life. In this destination here in the station, as well as those others that I mentioned, we have to bring the provisions to support life with us from Earth. You know, the air we breathe, the food, the other supplies that we have all come from Earth. So it's, I guess you could say, uniquely provisioned. But certainly it's possible to inhabit places like this. We've shown it for going on 16 years now.
Excellence is coming in the future generations, and we don't have the luxury to eliminate even one of those great brains, those great minds, those great superstars. So please help us, work with us, make sure that every girl and boy out there, they see themselves in the STEM fields, including them whatever they want to be. I can relate to that. If it's an artist, a designer, a journalist, a storyteller, an engineer, a poet, or a prophet, I can say, guess what? Guess what NASA's doing? Guess what all this good work leads to? It leads through dreams and exploring to Mars and beyond, and then also, probably most importantly, thinking about our Earth-related issues and problems. And that's what we're here to celebrate with our sister agencies, have the discussion with all of you to really accomplish, this time really accomplish, set the goals and really accomplish this step change that we desire.
If you look at our closest genetic relative to human beings, it would be the chimpanzee. We share like 98+% identical DNA. We are smarter than a chimpanzee. So let's invent a measure of intelligence that make humans unique. Let's say intelligence is your ability to compose poetry, symphonies, do art, math, and science, let's say, okay? Let's make that as the arbitrary definition of intelligence for the moment. Chimps can't do any of that. Yet we share 98, 99% identical DNA, okay? The most brilliant chimp there ever was maybe can do a little bit of sign language. Well, our toddlers can do that. toddlers. So here's what concerns me deeply, deeply. Everything that we are that distinguishes us from chimps emerges from that 1% difference in DNA. It has to, because that's the difference. The Hubble telescope, that's in that 1%. Maybe everything that we are that is not the chimp is not as smart compared to the chimp as we tell ourselves it is. Maybe the difference between constructing and launching a Hubble telescope and a chimp combining 2 finger motions as sign language, maybe that difference is not all that great. We tell ourselves it is, just the same way we label our books optical illusions. We tell ourselves it's a lot. Maybe it's almost nothing. How would we decide that? Imagine another life form that's 1% different from us in the direction that we are different from the chimp. Think about that. We got 1% difference and we're building the Hubble telescope. Go another 1%. What are we to they? We would be drooling, blithering idiots in their presence. That's what we would be. They would take Stephen Hawking and roll him in front of their primate researchers and say, well, this one is like the most brilliant among them because he can do sort of astrophysics in his head. Oh, isn't that cute? Little Johnny can do that too. Oh, that's so nice. Oh, in fact, Johnny just did that. Let me get it. It's on the refrigerator door. Here he is. He did it in his elementary school class. Think about how smart they would be. Quantum mechanics would be intuitive to their toddlers. Whole symphonies would be written by their children, and like I said, just put up on the refrigerator door the way our pasta collages are on our refrigerator doors. So the notion that we're going to find some intelligent life and have a conversation with it? When was the last time you stopped to have a conversation with a worm? Or a bird? Well, you might have had a conversation, but I don't think you expected an answer, all right? So, we don't have conversations with any other species on Earth with whom we have DNA in common. To believe that some intelligent other species is going to be interested in us enough to have a conversation? They'll look at our Hubble telescope and say, oh, isn't that quaint? Look at what they're doing. So I lay awake at nights wondering whether simply we as a species are simply too stupid to figure out the universe that we're investigating. And maybe we need some other species, 1% smarter than we are, for which string theory would be intuitive, for which all the greatest mysteries of the universe, from dark matter, dark energy, the origins of life, and all the frontiers of our thought would be something that they would just self-intuit. I'm jealous of that possibility, because I want to be around for those discoveries. Thank you all.